Hi everyone, today I'm going to be giving you a tour of our vegetable garden in October, and I think today the tour is going to be pretty short because we are getting towards the end of our growing season. In fact, the other day we very nearly had our first frost. I think it technically did get down to 32 degrees for like a minute, but it looks like a lot of things made it through okay, even the frost tender stuff. So I guess I would say that we didn't really have our first frost since nothing really died, but I do think that next week we will get another night that's going to be really cold where it might hit freezing again. So we're definitely getting to the end of the growing season, even though we do have some cold weather stuff in the ground still, which I will show you. So I'll just go around and kind of show you anything that's new or update you on how things are developing, but it's also just going to look a little bit emptier here today. If you can see in the back, we have some maple trees on the property and they're starting to turn color. They're so pretty and such a nice little backdrop for our garden. So here's our pepper bed, and all of the plants pretty much look fine. Like there's not even really frost damage on the tips of the plants, which I'm surprised about. So that one night where it did get, I'm pretty sure, down to 32, maybe 33 degrees, we did see some frost like on the grass, just like a little tiny dusting of frost. So I really thought that there was going to be at least some damage on these leaves. But really they look pretty good. So the night before I had actually come out and harvested a lot of the peppers, whether they were green or red. I was just preparing for the worst because there have been many times where it's predicted to get not quite at freezing and then it actually will freeze. So like that night that it got cold, it actually was supposed to only get down to like 36 degrees. But I know from experience, maybe just in our yard for some reason it gets a little colder than surrounding areas. Anytime it says like 35, 36 degrees, I prepare for the worst and I come out and harvest everything. So there really are not a lot of peppers on here right now. The only ones I didn't really harvest are these arroz con pollo peppers, and I have not harvested a single one from here this year. This is the first one that has actually started turning red. So not really great. These guys do take a long time to grow from my experience. I've grown them one time before. That year, I think it had gotten warm a lot quicker than it did this year. So I was able to harvest a lot, but this year it just took a long time to warm up, I think, in the spring. So these peppers didn't quite have enough time to develop, which is a little sad, but it's okay. But that's definitely something to take note of if you have a short growing season, because we have a fairly long growing season and I still did not have enough time to grow these peppers. So we'll try again next year and see if our spring is a little warmer, and then maybe we'll get a better harvest than we did this year. But yeah, everything else is pretty empty, not a lot of peppers on them. This bed is where we just harvested our peanuts. And I think that this bed we will amend with some compost and fertilizer, and maybe this is where we'll put a lot of our garlic this year. We need to come out and plant that pretty soon, probably in the next week or two. And we'll probably fill up this entire bed with garlic, and then we'll see, maybe do another like half bed somewhere else as well. The next bed I have some Brussels sprouts plants that are still a little small right now. They were getting pretty shaded by the winter melon that was growing on this arch trellis, but I have come out here the other day and cleaned that all up because we had harvested all of our winter melons and there wasn't going to be enough time to grow anymore. So I decided to start cleaning up, because once I got all of the vines off of this trellis, this bed does get a lot more sun, and now that our days are getting shorter, the plants over here can really use it, and it's cooler as well, so they don't need that protection from the heat or the sun. So now that I've taken all of that stuff that was shading them out, I think they'll be able to grow a little bit better. Hopefully they have enough time to grow more before winter really sets in, but if not, I think these plants will make it through until the spring, and then maybe we'll get something off of them. The cilantro is doing really well. I've been harvesting this, and if it grows a lot bushier before I'm ready to get to it, I'll do what I usually do, which is harvest a whole bunch of this and chop it up and freeze it in an ice cube tray. And in the last bed on this side, I have a couple of cauliflower plants. No actual heads developing on there yet. And then this part of the bed has purple kohlrabi, and those are starting to bulb up now. So here's one that's bulbing up. The other ones, the stems are getting a little bit thicker, but not quite making like a circular bulb yet. In this bed where I had my tomatoes, I did a big cleanup before the frost and pulled off any green tomatoes so that they can either ripen inside if they're close to turning red, or if not, then I will have to decide what to do with them. Maybe make like a pickled green tomato relish like I did last year. Some people also like to make a salsa verde out of them. In the next bed, we have harvested a lot of the radishes that we had in here. And they were some really beautiful radishes. I think the variety is called like Giant of Sicily or something like that. But they have bulbed up really nicely. And these are just the very last remaining ones. So they're a little bit more misshapen because they've been growing around the other radishes. But we have gotten some really nice, beautiful radishes out of this small little patch. And then on the other side, we had seeded in some more radishes in a recent video. We also have some kale here and some bok choy. They're looking a little torn because when we let our chickens out, they did get into this bed a little bit and were like nibbling on the edges of these plants. But other than that, they do look really good and they're growing so quickly these days. I think they're really enjoying this cool weather. Looking so beautiful. In the next bed, we have some purple sprouting broccoli and lettuce. I picked lettuce for a salad last night, so these plants are looking pretty sparse, but they've been growing really quickly, so they'll replenish themselves in like a couple days, and then we can have another salad, which is really great. It's so nice to have fresh lettuce and fresh salads again. And this sprouting broccoli, since it does overwinter and we're not really getting like the head or sprouts of the broccoli this year, what I've been doing is harvesting these leaves every so often, and I will cook these kind of like kale or collards because all of my kale seedlings died and I don't really have any kale around the garden right now, which is a great fall plant and one that I wish I had a lot of. But since I don't, I do like to use leaves of broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage, and I'll basically just cook them like you would any other leafy green. So it's really nice that I get double use out of these plants because normally you don't harvest on these until spring, but I'm still able to make use of them right now. So I've just been harvesting leaves here and there. I try not to take too many from the plant, maybe just like 2 leaves per plant, just so that they still have energy to make it through the winter. But as you can see, these leaves are really big, so just a few leaves from each plant and you'll have a bunch of greens in no time. And then in the last bed on this side, we had harvested sweet potatoes from this area of the bed, so that's all emptied out now. And we have some turnips and winter radishes on this side of the bed. And they're starting to bulb up now. Oh, there's a turnip that's looking really good. I didn't thin these at all, so they're definitely overcrowded, but that one seems to be doing just fine. And last year, I think I was picking turnips into like November, so these are gonna do just fine even when it gets a lot colder. And then here's a look at the China rose radishes that are starting to bulb up as well. Here's a look at our green stalk where we have a lot of lettuce in here right now. The lettuce has been doing so well in here, and I think it's a really nice way to grow greens. And again, we harvested these yesterday, so there is not too much to show, but I love all of these different varieties of lettuce. It's so nice when you grow like 2 or 3 different varieties, especially with like different textures and colors, and then you can put together a really nice salad mix. These like light green frilly ones are so nice. And then I really love these Merlot lettuce leaves. So pretty with that dark red, and it's really nice in a mix. And the strawberries are starting to show their fall color as well. Their leaves are turning red. Strawberries are so nice because they look really good, at least in our area, like almost year round. Even in the winter, they'll be kind of like a semi-evergreen, so they're just a really pretty plant to have, as well as being very delicious in the spring and summer. On this side of the back garden, there's not too much going on right now, so I'll just go through this area really quickly. I think the only things that are really new or developing are in this first row. We have Basically the whole bed is radishes that we seeded in recently after we harvested our sweet potatoes. So all of those are coming up now. And normally I wouldn't do a whole bed of radishes, but since there wasn't enough time to do anything else, I just did the whole thing with radishes. You can kind of tell which row is the one that Aaron seeded and which is the one that I seeded, because he tends to go a little heavier than I do. So here in the front we have lots of little seedlings, and then in the back that's where I seeded. And you can definitely see it more in this area where there are a ton of seeds over here. But that also could have been when I watered. Maybe the water carried a lot of the seeds here. So our Napa cabbage does not seem to have grown at all since last time. I'm not really sure why. I do find that Napa cabbage is a little bit trickier to grow than other kinds of cabbage, but I like it so much that I'll attempt it, and if it doesn't work out, then that's okay. At least I gave it a try. But yeah, they kind of just look the same size, if not smaller, than they did last month. And I think I did amend the soil right before planting, so I'm not sure why. But next to that, we have some daikon radishes. The tops are looking really nice and healthy. And I can see that the actual roots are starting to develop down there now too. And the last few rows, I really don't think that much is going on. Everything is pretty much warm weather stuff that is fading. Our okra stalks look so silly right now. They have absolutely 0 leaves. And then the pods at the top where we just haven't harvested towards the end of the season and they got really big. They're really heavy. So these stalks have just like fallen over. They just have like a really heavy top and then no leaves. Really silly looking. Here's a little view of the back area with the maple trees turning. In a couple weeks they're going to be completely like golden and orange and red, and it's going to be so beautiful. And here we are in the last area of the garden, and this is pretty much where the bulk of like our actual food growing is going to go into the winter, because we have a lot of broccoli, cabbage, and other cold hardy things here, so they should last pretty well after the first frost. And they have just been growing so beautifully. This first section I have a lot of cabbage, and I think all of this is the same variety. It's like a cone-shaped cabbage. And you can kind of tell they're starting to like form that cone shape right now. They're forming the head right in the center. So that's really great to see. And I just think cabbage plants are so pretty how they form like a little rosette, and the veins of the leaves are so beautiful. Even just like the plain green ones are so pretty. And then if you have like a red cabbage, the colors are always so stunning. So these ones are looking really good. Not a lot of worm damage and caterpillar damage on these, which is great. Then the next area I have cauliflower. This is a hybrid variety that I don't think I grew in the spring, so I'm curious to see if it will do well. I did notice a little bit of worm damage on these ones, and I did spray all of these plants with BT a few times since last month, and that has really helped a lot. I don't know what kind of eggs these are, but they're probably not good. So yeah, if you are having caterpillar problems, definitely try BT. It's an organic thing that you can spray that works really well. In the other row, I have a few plants of tatsoi, and they are looking so beautiful. This is the biggest one I've ever grown, and I just think it's so pretty how it looks like a little rosette, and the leaves are just like so shiny and dark green. And you can use this kind of like bok choy, so I'm really excited. I'll probably be harvesting this soon. And I think I'll probably just like pick the outer leaves like you would with lettuce, and then hopefully this will keep growing in the winter. It's just so stunning. Then I've got just a couple of red cabbage plants here. And then on the other side, I have a lot of broccoli plants. These ones do have a little bit more caterpillar damage than the cabbages do. So hopefully with my recent application of BT, that will help out with that. And I noticed that a few of these are starting to develop their little crown in the middle. So there's a really tiny one there. And then this next one's a little bit bigger. So we should be harvesting some broccoli soon. I did mention in a recent video that we have a vole that's kind of invading our garden, and these two broccoli plants, the roots were really chewed up. I think the vole had probably dug underneath them, and they looked really bad for a couple days. I thought they were completely dead, but I watered them in really well, and it looks like they're recovering really nicely. This one does have a lot of worm damage. I can see a little worm right here actually. But despite all of that, it's still forming a little broccoli crown here. Maybe it won't be as big because it was a little bit stressed out, but they made it through okay, so I will take that. And I have been keeping these 2 rows covered with the frost fabric, which I think does help a lot with the caterpillars because we have a lot of the cabbage moths flying around recently. I just had to take them off for a couple days when we had like that few days of like stormy rain come through our area. I didn't want the frost fabric to get all torn up and everything. So they were uncovered for a few days, and that's when I think those moths came in and laid some new eggs, which is why I have had to spray BT again. But other than that, the frost fabric and covering these plants up helps a lot. And I'm just loving how full these 2 rows look. So pretty with the sun shining through on those trees in the back. These 2 rows of really big, beautiful plants. So that's going to be it for October's garden tour. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again in the next one.